welcome to another real-world SF50 flying video. This one's called Let's Talk About Flysto, an interview with developer Patrick Lienhart. Hello, I'm David Weeks. I've been flying professionally for over 50 years, starting as a CFI, then as a charter pilot like twins. I spent time as an air ambulance pilot in Swearingen Metro, and I worked as a demonstration pilot for the Learjet factory. I have a 35-year airline career flying the 737-200 and 300, the A320 series, and I retired as a Boeing 787 captain. I'm also a current CFII. I've got over 900 hours in the SF50, and I'd like to share my SF50 experience with you. Now, there may be other YouTube channels that have glitzier production values than this one. I like to spend my time writing and teaching about the SF50 and not doing post-production work. So just imagine this video is like a hangar chat session between friends. First, let me say that it has been a while since my last podcast. It's summertime, and I've been doing some traveling. My most recent trip was to Jack Brown's seaplane base in Winter Haven, Florida, where I got a seaplane rating add-on to my certificate. That was lots of learning crammed into 2 days, but it was fun. Okay, how did your last flight go? Were you flying at the correct approach speed during final approach? How well did you track the final approach course on your recent hand-flown ILS? Is your battery in good condition? Was that 360-degree steep turn really within the commercial ACS standards? All pilots, even recreational ones, should be debriefing each flight. Looking back over your flights helps you stay honest about how accurately and safely you're flying. But our memories are often not as good as we'd like, especially in high workload conditions. And if you're a CFI, you might be teaching and supervising a couple of dozen maneuvers each flight, and they can all run together. But if you're flying an airplane with a Garmin G1000, 3000, or 5000 avionics, there is a great technical solution to this problem. Flysto. Flysto is a website that takes the flight log data that these Garmin avionics systems record to the SD card in the panel and analyzes every detail. It can show digital and visual playbacks of the entire flight, from taxi out to shutdown. You can look at the flight from above, or displayed on a map, or you can look at a representation of the instrument panel and see all the gauges update in real time. You can dig deep into the electrical and engine data and watch for developing trends. Are your approaches and landings poor, average, or better than average? With Flysto, you can compare your approach performance to the average approach performance for your type of aircraft. And all you need to use Flysto is to upload your flight log data from the SD card after each flight. After shutdown, just remove the SD card, connect it to your smartphone with an SD card reader connected to the USB port, and you can send it to Flysto. And if you use the AirSync data module, as I do, you can have the AirSync box automatically send your flight log to Flysto. And Flysto is free, as in there's no charge, as in FREE. So there's no reason not to use Flysto as a debriefing tool to help you improve your flying skills. Patrick Lienhart is one of the earliest members of the Flysto development team. Patrick is an active general aviation pilot, as well as having flown for a major European airline. Patrick was kind enough to take some time to discuss Flysto, how it got started, and to give us an overview of some of its many, many features. So here's my interview with Patrick. Patrick, welcome to Real World SF50 Flying. Now, I know that Flysto is not limited to just Vision jets, but rather anybody who uses the Garmin G1000 or G3000 or 5000 avionics can use your service. I've been using Flysto since March of 2021, just after I started flying my Vision jet, and I am a big fan of the service. So in case people don't know, tell the viewer, just give them a quick overview of what Flysto is, what it can do, and just tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and how did you come to the idea of Flysto?
Okay, David, it's a pleasure. Thank you for your time and for meeting up. I'm a big fan of your real world SF50 flying channel. big fan of your presence on Copa, all the knowledge, and it's a real pleasure to finally connect. I'm really happy to hear that you enjoy Flysto. We're a really great team. We have a lot of passion and positive user feedback. Even though we're quite used to it by now, it still gives us a lot of energy. How did I come up with Flysto? Well, it's as always, it's a great partnership. It started with Flysto's main software developer who started GA flying, a private pilot. First airplane purchase was an SR-22T back in 2018. And we met because I was a airline pilot doing long haul, and on my days off, I was mentoring and instructing for IFR on Cirrus. And so we met, and after one of the IFR training sessions, he was like, yeah, there's so much going on during such a training flight, all these procedures, and and I noticed that there's an SD card in the G1000 and there's a CSV file. Like, is there any service where I could upload this data and refly properly, debrief my flight? And so I was like, yeah, there's a couple tools out there, and you can try this one, or you can try the track logs of your EFB. And so Valentin goes and tries all these services and like texts me like, I can't use any of those. They're like ancient or slow, or they're inaccurate. And I made a small prototype tool here of our last flight. Why don't you check it out? And so I looked.
What year was this?
2018, 19, right? I think it was 19 already. That's when we discovered the CSV files. And so I look at it and I'm like, I think I spent 2 hours, and it was just a very simple web page with, a Google map inset and some numbers, but it already had things like takeoff distance, and I was like, wow, I got lost in this data. And so he kept working on this after every flight, and I started to give my feedback, like, we're following a magenta line. Why don't we make the track magenta colored? Or, if you're going up, it's blue. If you're going down, it's brown. Things like that. And then I said, this is a very, very impressive tool. It's extremely responsive. It's very accurate. Can I share this? Like, the other pilots should use this. And so I sent it to my friends in the States, in Europe, and there were a couple hundred people, I think, that we did manually, and then we enabled signups.
You developed the system,
and then it got more complex, more features. So a designer joined the team, and then we were like, everything's going mobile, so we need a mobile app. So we do iOS and Android native apps. Those are more companion apps, but so the team grew, and now it's been a few years.
So, the current site now has got page after page of features, analysis options. Early on, it was pretty basic. What kind of features did you have in the first few months that you were actively growing the development team?
Yeah, I switched my laptop, and I didn't transfer all my screenshots and files, but on my old computer, I took screenshots periodically, and it was already pretty exhaustive. I would say the first iteration, it had a basic map, but it already had things like airspeed, altitude, bank angle. It didn't have overlays like terrain awareness and weather. Traffic came later, but it wasn't as, I would say, designed as it is now. Like it was very plain, but it's very data driven. You could tell that the main backend development is very focused on correctly interpreting and making available data. And I think
Okay.
this is kind of the clue. The whole thing is make everything better with data. And
Okay.
as you know, as a former airline pilot, the airline, the 121 companies, they've been doing this for decades. I mean,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
flight data monitoring FOQA. So that's what we're trying to achieve here is
Okay.
use
Good.
available data and
So
make it available for
how do
pilots.
you come to add new features? I mean, obviously as the team, you've got a bunch. Do you get many good suggestions that are actually coming from end users that you incorporate?
Yeah, definitely. So especially in the beginning, we got tons of feature requests, suggestions. I'd say that some of the really popular things, they are kind of evident. Like we had on our list for a long time to show precipitation radar overlay or show traffic. So we purchase ADS-B data, archive it, and then even if your flight has been, months or weeks ago, if you upload the log, we have
Right.
the weather for that flight. We have the ADS-B traffic for that flight. I would say that some of the features, they pertain to exotic avionics. Like I have this system, can you support the file format? And initially
Low level
we
change.
we did everything, but now we have thousands over thousands of active users, and we get a lot of feedback, a lot of bug reports, and we just have to allocate the resources so that if we see there's a group of experimentals or something and they need it for determining their performance, we do it. If it's a singular request, we're like, we have a system, we'll put it on a backlog, and if we have resources, we'll do it.
How many users do you have now, and how fast is the user base growing?
So it's going like this. It's the growth is still accelerating. I would say 2020 onwards, it was very organic. People talked about it in communities, forums. We did Sun and Fun and Oshkosh expos. I think I would say at accounts, we're in the maybe, I think we broke like 20,000 accounts signed up. But
wow.
it doesn't really tell that much, because we have like a single account that is a flight school, and they're doing like 100,000 hours a year.
So here's the next question. So you're growing. People have asked me this. So right now, it's a free service. Do you plan to move to a subscription service? I mean, how would that benefit the end user? What in a nutshell, what are your thoughts on that? You don't have to disclose any trade secrets, but that question's always out there. This is so good. This is such a great service. How can it
be free? Yeah, we're actually on the B2B, and we're running into some problems because companies are like suspicious. They're not used to getting anything for free.
Why aren't they charged? Yeah.
Right. So it's really the go-to-market strategy is we really don't want to cause friction. Now, we know that general aviation is tough. It's very expensive as it is. It's a niche. Like there's not potentially hundreds of millions of users globally. Yeah. And we still want to provide an extremely well-made product, like a really high quality software, very user-centric, always new features. And eventually we need to check if we can be successful on the sustainability as a business as well. Like right now, we're successful in coming up with new ideas, transforming them into tech, and people love it. But the go-to-market strategy,
Yeah.
it does see some monetization. However, and here's the thing, we know that even if we charge a very low amount, a lot of people, especially people that fly recreationally, fly for fun,
right,
they'll probably say like, okay, this is another paid service, another subscription.
Yep. Netflix,
I'm not sure.
Yeah, where will it end?
Right. So our strategy is kind of, let's keep a usable product free that focuses on safety. Like, it could focus on the debriefing aspect, so you can debrief your flight. It can make you a safer and better pilot, but it might not have all the coolness, like all the extra features you need to kind of have this really amazing experience. And we see a lot of demand on this FOQA in GA. So the concept,
those people who don't know that term, that's an airline term. It stands for Flight Operations Quality Assurance. It's a way that you can have your performance monitored and debriefed. And usually, if you don't hear anything, that's good news. But if you're exceeding company parameters, you might get a call from the FOQA debriefer to say, "Hey, let's talk about this flight."
Exactly.
So and like a FOQA thing for GA. But we could talk business at length. Let's get into a particular flight, and you can walk us through some of the things that you think Flysto does the best.
Yeah.
Why don't you pull up a flight that I did just the other day, coming back from the Cirrus Converge get-together in Colorado Springs the other day. I flew from Colorado Springs to Bloomington, Indiana in my Vision Jet, and after that, I flew home to Charlottesville, Virginia. So Patrick has access to that data. So go ahead and give our viewers a good rundown on the kinds of things that you can get out of the data. Go ahead.
Yeah, so let me just make sure that you can see my screen.
Looks good from
Perfect. Here. And let's make sure that it's recorded. And so this is basically, if you select one of your flights in Flysto, the intro screen. We're currently in the overview mode. So the entire flight is selected. You can see the map. You can, of course, customize the map. You can see it in 3D if you want to, or you can do a profile view. You can do a cockpit replay.
That is one of the best features I like the most about Flysto.
Yeah, and you can access all the data in this graphs picture. So you can even compare it, like if you're interested in your ITT for the entire flight compared to your oil pressure, you can do that. And you can even select some parts and get the distribution and the values and the averages. It's pretty neat. If you click up here, you can even favorite this for quick access for the next time. So here's how I review my flights. First of all, I like to check for any flags. So depending on where they occurred, you'd get a little flag icon here, and you could see if you've exceeded any of your defined parameters. You can configure these yourself. So no flags here. And then I like to see the flight times and the startup, especially with turbine engines.
For Vision Jet guys, this is important. If you're finding that your battery is slowly losing capacity and the duration that the starter engaged is tending to get longer and longer, and you can also look at that in relation to your start ITTs, if that average is slowly going up. This is great data to take to Jetstream and say, I'm starting to wonder about battery one. Maybe it's getting old. Go ahead.
We've had users report that we basically saved them from a bad battery at some remote location where they would have been stuck because they knew like it was failing, so they could exchange it early enough. So you can see that it's not only about debriefing and looking at your, I would say, pilot performance. It's also a maintenance tool or a predictive maintenance tool. And you have this little graph icon. So you've shared this particular flight with me. I don't have access to your aircraft or all your flights, but in your own account, you could see a scatter plot graph of all your startups, and you would see a trend line and things like that.
Some are higher, some are lower, some are longer, but you can see a general trend.
And depending on which segment you select here, like the entire flight, these details down here change. So for entire flight, you get a flight log, and you could include your waypoints, and you can see all the fuel used, and you can see your fuel details. So Flysto has some smart calculations in the background. You can see things like what's your time to cruise, how long was your taxi out, so all kinds of things. And this is one of the things I love. It's the performance comparison. So we actually parse the manufacturer performance, and you can see that you got plus 17 knots average true airspeed in cruise.
That was one of the questions. My airplane always seems to be 8, 10, 11 knots above book speed, which is great. My fuel burns are great, but instead of 306, I'm doing 312 or 313 knots true airspeed. So I guess my airplane is performing better than the factory average. Good to know.
Yeah. So it should actually tell you this for the VisionJet fleet in Flysto. So we show anonymous data comparisons, like what's your average approach speed compared to the VisionJet fleet data in Flysto.
How big is the VisionJet? Do you know how big the VisionJet fleet is in Flysto right now? How many VisionJets you're monitoring?
I did not check it recently, but Cirrus is one of the strongest, I would say, manufacturers represented in Flysto. So the SR-22T is I think the number 2 airplane, and the VisionJet is very much up there. So it's probably in the 200, 300, 400 range or something.
Good.
Yeah.
Anyways, going. One thing that I know that instructors, CSIPs like about Flysto is the ability to look at the landing portion, because most guys could take off. Rotate, pitch attitude, positive rate, gear up, 600 feet, flaps up at 115, MCT, so on and so forth. But it's playing back the landing information that says you're low and slow. You're pulling too many G's when you turn to final. Go through the approach that I did into Bloomington.
Yeah, definitely. There's a saying
when I review my Flysto,
knowing to fly means knowing to land, because those are kind of mandatory.
Yeah, you've heard these takeoffs are optional, landings are mandatory.
And there's a focus on approach and landing review in Flysto. In your flight list, you can actually go to a separate approaches list and configure that list, and then you can look at all the landings in detail. So we've selected the landing tab here, and you can see that it'll immediately focus the map on that portion, and the same thing would happen for the profile. So it will adjust. It will do it for the graphs as well. If you're interested in your graphs for landing, you can just select it and it'll adjust the view. So a couple of things happen. You get the weather from that airport. So if it's an airport that reports a METAR or something similar, we archive it. You get your approach score, and you get all these landing details.
How did I do?
Well, very nice.
I lucked out.
You got 96%. We can open this and we can look at it in detail. So you see Flysto adjusts your ref speed for.
See, let me jump in. I know that feature has not been around for the entire duration of Flysto, because I know that if you were landing and it was 8 knots gusting to 25, you'd get nicked on you were carrying more speed as appropriate for the approach. Flysto would not know about the weather, so you'd lose speed because you're above the planned approach speed. Now, it's great because you're taking that into account.
Yeah,
that's a big improvement in all the scores that look at, are you on speed or too fast or too slow. So that was a really important improvement. And
that's especially important for jets that use ref speeds and not fixed approach speeds. So weight adjusted ref speeds. Yeah. So you can see that you have actual values compared to required values, and based on these, you get a score, and it's added up and shown as a percentage. You actually have an average score here for your last 20 approaches of 94.5, and first place among all SF50 as of today. So you're doing really well.
Okay, well, show the details, because you'll see. Let's show them a scatter plot of how that approach related to the rest of the fleet.
Exactly. So here's the SF50 average at 86. And yeah, so you can see that at your last 20 were like at 94. Here's your trend line going up. Yeah, so very neat.
Good. Keep going.
Yeah, so a lot of people, they see this score like as a grade. So people will come in with requests like, well, I did a training flight, or I'm based at a really short field and I need to do a really short final, base to final turn, and it messes up my score. And we're like, look, the score, it's only a shortcut. Like, we just want you to be able to quickly determine if you were outside of any parameters that you specified. You can customize the score for your operation. If you're a flight school, if you're an owner pilot, you can do this. You lose the comparison against the same set of parameters that are default, but it doesn't really matter. But it's not really the point. Like, if you're based at a very short field, maybe it's high elevation and there's obstacles, and you have to bank your vision jet 35 degrees every time, and to line up on a 100 feet final segment or something, then this is reflected in a lower score, because that's the truth. If you're doing a straight in instrument approach like we see here, it's just more stable, so it gets a higher score. And you did the flight, the flight, so you can account for if it was a training flight or whatever. Now, we did get a lot of requests from people who are using Flysto with their insurance. They print out their scores and things like that. And we offer this magic tag. So you could create a tag and define it as like non-standard approach, and then it wouldn't reflect the average score, your aggregate score, if you want that. But there's more here in the landing details. You can see final intercept, autopilot off. You can see all these details below 1,000, below 500, and below 200 feet. So a 121 or 135 operation would have a stabilized approach gate at like 1,000 feet, maybe 500 feet in VMC. And you can see if any of these details are outside the norm, they would be colored in amber or red. You can also see the wind, the total wind, headwind, and crosswind. And down here you can see shear. So you can see there was like an 8 knots shear spike here, close before the runway.
Now, one thing that I don't see in this particular approach, or the flight in general, is any indications of a potential collision. And Flysto can indicate that.
It does, yeah.
calculate when a collision may have been an issue?
Well, so we archive ADS-B data that we purchase from a vendor. In fact, if we click somewhere here, we go from overview mode to playback mode, and you can see traffic is by ADS-B Exchange here, and we purchased that. And if there's any ADS-B targets nearby, we'll actually highlight them and we'll flag them like potential collision within 60 seconds or within 80 seconds or whatever you've specified. So that's up to you. We can try the entire flight here and see.
Back up just for a second, if you would. I think if there go back into the approach, if you're a sharp-eyed viewer, you're going to say, wait a minute, why did he fly through that weather approaching Bunka intersection?
Yeah.
The tops of that weather were around, they were in the high teens, low 20s, and I was deviating a little bit, but I was above the weather on that. And then once I cleared it, then I turned it back in. Now, when is the weather that you display on screen indicative of what the weather return was at that time? Because, for example, FlightAware doesn't show the weather at the time of the flight.
Yeah, so you can see if you you can replay this in real time, which would be right now.
Okay.
Or you can fast forward here, and you can see there's a traffic Airbus.
Yeah.
And there's another one here. And if you forward this, you can see that we have the weather here. It's like 10-minute resolution, and you can see we use computer vision between the weather snapshots, so it should work to give you a good idea here. Let's see how it. Yeah, see how it.
Yep. There you go.
So it does reflect what you had. Of course, we don't really know if you were above or below, but you know that.
Sure.
And you can also see sometimes if you deviate, you can see like how would this situation have looked 10 minutes later if I would have gone the other way, deviated left or right, or. But that's a pretty fast-moving squall line there.
Yeah, I was able to get. I mean, I had a quick turn. I was on the ground about 25 minutes, and the weather was about 10 miles to the west when I taxied out and hightailed it to the east. So I made it safely before the weather got there.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a question for you. How hard did I hit the ground when I touched down? This is one of the interesting little features I think that you offer. Tell me what the G loading was, and tell me how you calculate that.
Well, so right now with Vision Jets, we're like really happy with the data, but it is 1 hertz data. Yeah. So we get.
What does that mean to somebody who doesn't know what 1 hertz is?
We get all these parameters. Like we can show them here in the graphs. If you scroll down, you get all the raw data. So these are all the parameters that are coming off the Garmin avionics onto the SD card. And there's like 60 of them or 70.
Yeah.
And those are stored once per second. So the sampling rate is 1 hertz. And this makes it a little bit difficult to determine like the G spike during the actual touchdown, because it could be between 2 seconds. And on an airliner, they have a higher resolution, and they have like thousands of parameters, weight on wheel sensors, wheel spin up, and we're seeing more of these aircraft coming into Flysto. And of course, for us, it makes it really easy. But we're trying to do a great job with the Garmin. And let's go into the touchdown here. So we have the touchdown impact, and you can see that 400 feet per minute is a caution zone and 600 feet per minute is a warning zone. Now, those are the landing limits, and you can also customize those. Yeah. So and you can see that the SF50 average is right around where your touchdown was, very smooth. And we do it by using a combination of the raw data parameters involving barometric vertical speed, GNSS, so GPS-derived vertical speed, acceleration, and some things with the, I think there's something with deceleration on the airspeed and ground speed.
You remember some of the landings on the Airbus, you could pop bins of things and you'd write it up a hard landing, and maintenance would go in and they'd look at the touchdown, the rate of descent, and if it was less than 360 feet per minute, no inspection required. And then if it was from 360 to I think the 600, it's like, yeah, the wheels are still on there. If it was more than 600, the airplane probably wouldn't be flying for a while because they had to do it hard.
Right. I know on the 777, people also found the way into the maintenance computer to print out the G load from the landing. It was like, you know, oh, ha, ha, my landing was the smoothest. You all owe me a beverage.
Right.
But
yeah.
But the flight ops quickly clarified, like Boeing says, you can use this as a guidance, but the hard landing inspection is up to the pilots. Like if you think that it was a hard landing, I think it's also tricky on the, you know, the bigger aircraft, they're really long, and where is the acceleration sensor mounted and things like that. So, the short answer is we use a combination of data to try and give you the most accurate result. And it's a lot more complicated than it looks like, because sometimes we don't have very accurate data about the runway, about the exact elevation. If you look at this, you can see that we actually try to take into account the profile of the runway. So is there a slope and all of these things? So it's tricky.
Yeah. You know, you've got more features than I know about. I mean, there's so many options and features. What kind of documentation are you providing to the end user? Is there a Flysto manual PDF that can be downloaded, that you update, that this is new, here's how you do such and such, here's how you can compare 3 different parameters to look at trends? What's out there for people who want to read about software?
So we don't have any written like wiki or how to. What we have are, we've got YouTube videos. It's very basic. There's a small YouTube channel where we have some short videos for onboarding users, like sign up, takes 8 seconds, upload your first log. But then we also have playlists with tutorials done by our users who are like so fascinated by Flysto that they're like, I need to show this to the world, and everybody needs this, and this is how I debrief my flight. And so what we do have is, we have some colleagues now in the US who onboard the flight schools. And I've had, you know, countless emails with short video clips, screenshots, phone calls. So we do try to help everybody out, and we know that sophisticated documentation needs to come, but we were not able to create something due to the workload. We do try to position Flysto as a user-centric tool that should be easy learning by doing experience. If you can't really do anything wrong, like you can just use it, and if you get lost, you know, just go back to your slides and start over. So good. But
well, this is great. We could talk for hours about individual features of this, but you know, we need to wrap it up before we run over our time limit. Do you have any closing comments or observations that you'd like to make about Flysto? In a nutshell.
Absolutely. In a nutshell, what I know is that people are very honest, and they say that they couldn't believe it after they tried it. So it is really very good. and we try to make it a fun and fascinating experience for pilots to improve. It's really a self-improvement tool for pilots, all the way up to a safety management FOQA tool for flight operations. And we're pretty, I would say, established in general aviation now, and we'll see what comes next.
Well, Patrick Lienhart, thanks for taking the time to chat with me on real world SF-50 flying. This has been a great interview, and keep improving Flysto. It's great now. It's going to get better in the future.
David, thanks. I'm really honored to be featured in your real world SF-50 flying channel, and we'll be in touch, and maybe we'll do a follow-up feature video.
That would be great. You're welcome.
Thanks, David. Bye.